Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the United States of America. And of course, good morning to the entire world receiving our signals via the magic of El Internet, formerly known as the ARPANET. Created by whom? Created by we the people. We got a lot to talk about today. Two great videos that I want to play for you that we did in Netroots with two wonderful women, as well as we'll talk about some other issues. But before we get there, we have El Senor Jacques Van Beba that will start us off on the good footing. Jacques, how you doing today, my brother?
All right. Good morning, Egberto. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, the world. All right. All right. This morning on Politics Done Right, make one thing clear. Democracy does not save itself. Anger does not automatically become votes. The working people will not reward politicians who merely oppose right, right, the right while refusing to fight for them. Stephanie Thomas reminds Democrats that outrage must become organizing. Helen Gym shows that what resilience looks like after corporate power floods a race with money. And the UK gives American centrists a loud warning when a supposed alternative fails to deliver for workers, the far right fills the vacuum. Ooh.
Yes, you feel the vacuum. And what you got for me, Jack?
Yes. Oh man, I guess I'm just saturated with what all goes on these days, and it makes me a little speechless because
I
there's
hear
just so
you.
much out there. I was reading up on data centers in a news magazine, and man,
Mother Jones, to be
it's
specific.
yes. It's diabolical. It's sinister. It's not going to do what they say it's going to do. And every time they try to give something to you that gives you a convenience, it ends up ensnaring and enslaving us. So that's what AI has in store for us. If it were to be actually run by people that want to make it a something neutral for the people, it could be a benefit. But that's not the way the billionaires are designing it to work.
You know, you just, oh God. Um, I'm going to start there. That's not on my list of, I mean, when you mentioned that earlier today, when we were talking, I was like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. But then you go ahead and you put some special words in there, Jack. Now I'm going to have to talk about it. Oh, God. All right. I'm going to take about 4 or 5 minutes to talk about that.
Well,
Anyhow,
cool.
anyhow, anyhow, let's get busy. Jack is absolutely right. And in effect, let me just put it bluntly. Uh, for our benefit, AI, for the benefit of humanity, AI is incompatible with capitalism. And Jack, when Jack talk about sinister and all that kind of stuff, AI in the hands of the capitalists is in effect sinister. It's in effect a clear and present danger to humanity. Is a definite it is a definite problem, and that is one of the reasons why I don't ever say I hate AI, because as you guys, I've told you, I've given you my workflow that uses AI. And why does my workflow use AI? Because I'm one person creating a hell of a lot of data, stories, etc. It really, really acts as as an assistant. But here's the problem. The problem is, whereas individuals like myself can use AI as a benefit, the capitalist sees the opposite into AI. I want to define capitalism again. If you look at the textbook definition of capitalism, it says the efficient allocation of resources. And that is how, that capitalism is the efficient allocation of resources. And then we go a little bit further to what the god of capitalism has to say, which is the new god, I call him Milton Friedman, died now, but of course he was in the 20th century. And he he makes it clear there is no place in the executive's repertoire, what the executive is tasked to do, where he should take anything into account. Social issues, environmental issues, none of that should be taken into account. Anything that somehow at the present affects the viability of the profits for the shareholders is invalid. I didn't say it. Go to Wikipedia, look up the article he wrote, I think in 1972, where he gave marching orders to executives. So, breaking that down into what AI does for us, AI, and by the way, the fallacy of efficient allocation of resources is just that, a fallacy. If that were true, we wouldn't have multi-payer insurance companies, because that's not the efficient allocation of resources. One payer is the efficient allocation of resources. One payer, multiple providers, that's an allocation of resources that enhance competition, where the one payer gets the best deal. But when you have multiple payers and multiple providers, that is anarchy. And that is exactly what we get in healthcare. That is not efficiency. Now, going back to the subject at hand that our brother Jack messed with my show with our show, I should say. What the hell am I saying? Our show. So AI in the hands of the capitalist means the following. It means, hey, one of our major costs can go away, the human being. I mean, like I've mentioned before, we went from slavery to mass employment and now to robotics and AI. A lot of folks don't see the correlation, but it's always a master at the top, and that master at the top determine what employment is going to look like, what everything else is going to look like. Why do I call employment as the way we practice it antiseptic slavery? Because again, it is a better form of slavery. And how is that? The slave had to be clothed, the slave had to be fed, the slave had to be kept healthy, the slave was property. Discarding the property meant discarding your wealth. Discarding that slave meant discarding your wealth, your assets. What does a slave do? A slave works. A slave goes into the field and cut cotton. A slave goes ahead and raise the hens. A slave goes ahead and raise the cattle. But doesn't the employee do the same now? Yeah, but the difference now is that employee failed. When that employee has failed, or that employee gets sick, or that employee whatever, that employee can be released. That employer has no value to apply to that employee, because he can rid himself and go to the pool of potential employees and bring that new one in without losing any of his assets. And why do corporations love, or hate rather, unions? Corporations hate unions because it makes the employee an asset. I have a friend who who did a certain job, and he got sick. And because he was represented by an insurance company, he got sick in his mid 50s. He's about 12 years away from retirement, but he will be covered as an asset to that company that he works for. Yes, the the employee became a benign asset when he got, I mean, benign for himself, because the union made sure that he had value. A slave was more important to the employer, to the slave owner, than an employee is to the employer today. And when we take away the bells and whistles and understand the financial ramifications of how our current system, where employees have no value, how it runs, and when we tie now AI into it, where AI can replace several employees, and not only does it replace an employee, but it devalues those that remain employed in the aggregate. How does it do that? Supply and demand. If you're laying off a lot of employees because there is something that is able to do that job cheaper, that means you're filling up the pool of the unemployed or the pool of the poorly employed. And if you're filling up with the pool of the poorly employed or the underemployed, that means the master, the employer, now can pick and choose at a lower cost that employee. The maximization of efficiency, the efficient allocation of resources, capitalism. Folks, I mean, you're not going to hear it this way on TV. You're not going to hear it this way on the people who are paying the media to indoctrinate us, the people who are paying the teachers to keep us in our place. We don't go to school to learn how to be free. We don't go to school to become business owners and etc. The business owner sits right there in the middle, right? That's why I am for free enterprise. You can own your own business, or you can be a well paid employee who has a stake in the business that you work for. That's what I believe in. Free enterprise. Capitalism is an evil entity, has always been an evil entity. Capitalism is what created slavery. Capitalism is what created the non-union worker, and capitalism is what fights the union worker, the thing that gives the employee a higher status than just being a slave. I mean, this is hard to swallow because when you've been indoctrinated for so long, as I was as well, when you're indoctrinated for so long and you call systems that protect your social well being evil, or give it a negative connotation, that is the masterfulness of the innovative, the indoctrinative state. Anyway, Jack, thank you for taking over my first 8 minutes or so of the program, but I think it is something. Thank you for doing that, brother. That is so important. Did
Well,
that make
there's
sense to you
more.
at all, sir?
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's more though.
Go ahead.
What I'm seeing is the wealthy are trying to get rid of labor, period, and shift
Yes,
it over to AI and robotics so they don't need labor anymore. So, I mean,
but
that's the real scary part.
let me tell you, I think that's pretty much what I said when I said that when it did the efficient allocation of resources mean getting rid of the employee, because that's a very, in their opinion, the thing that doesn't compute. But let me tell you something that you just said that is interesting, right? And when I talk about the capitalists or people in that domain aren't necessarily smart, and I don't say that because I want to be um, rude to them or I want to be nasty to them. What I want folks to understand is these guys aren't necessarily very smart, because what you don't realize is remember when you went and learned algebra, you learned what a balance equation was. When you learned chemistry, you learned how to balance the equations when a chemical reaction is going to occur. Balance. Even in accounting, you learn double entry accounting, where things have to balance from one side of from your assets to your liabilities, etc. A equal. Remember that that accounting formula for those of you in the house who are accountants. We learned all of those things. Life is a balance. You get water. You drop a piece of water, it turns into a circle because you get gravitational balance, right? What these, and I'll forgive me for calling them this because this is what they are. What these dumb billionaires don't understand is that if you don't get the balance for everything that you create, the billionaire does. You need to have the balance on the other side to buy that which you create. Or I shouldn't say create, they don't create a damn thing. They sell things. For everything that they sell, you have to have somebody on the other end who can afford to buy it. And what they fail to realize is the things that they are doing are cutting the supply of people who would purchase the things that they sell. So eventually, when we talk about capitalism and these things being unsustainable, that's what we're talking about. The whole infrastructure is unsustainable. I play a graph almost every few days on my 3 o'clock program, where it shows that as because the billionaires continue to take an unfair share, an undeserved share of growth in the economy, eventually they will own everything. But the piece of the formula that I put in there that is incorrect, that formula is illustrative. But before they own everything, they collapse, they implode. That's just the nature. I mean, that part of the formula I didn't put. I just wanted to show the generality of that. They keep getting stronger and owning more, and that eventually they get indentured servitude. But the part of the equation that I didn't put is you need a massive amount of indentured servitude to get the masses down to under 1% for that to occur. So anyway, that's another mathematical feat that I wasn't willing to remember all the
Yeah,
calculus to do. Go ahead.
I think Betty would put it like this:
I
they're
love
cutting
Betty.
off their nose to spite their face.
She has a way of making things very simple, don't she, Jack?
I
I love
try.
Betty. I love Betty. I love you too, but I love Betty, man. But anyway, let's go ahead and get busy. Let me tell you about the first video that I'm going to play for you. This is the this first video is the actually, I'm going to play the one with Helen Gym first. Helen Gym ran for president. I'm sorry, ran for mayor of Philadelphia. She was ahead in the race, etc. But she's also a very progressive woman. I met her several years ago at a Netroots in, I think it was Phoenix, and she completely impressed the whole hell out of me. I want you to listen to this interview because money came in and they did some nasty tricks, and she lost the election, not by a bunch, to be mayor of Philadelphia. But check this out. Welcome to another edition of Politics in Right. I'm Egberto, Willies, your host. Today I'm with somebody special. I met Helen Gym well back in Phoenix at the Netroots Nation. And you know what I think? First of all, welcome to Politics Done Right. Helen, how you doing?
I could not be happier than to be with you, Egberto, today.
Well, let me tell you.
In my city.
Yes, in your city. And folks, I expected her to be the mayor of Philly. We did get that lucky, but I really knew the city was yours. But anyhow, I really knew I was following those numbers. I followed the numbers, and
I thought it was yours. But anyhow, Helen, what are you doing right now
Well, first of
after
all,
running for mayor?
yeah, no, it's been great to step out of the spotlight. For a lot of people who are in government, in office, especially if you're trying to push hard to make change, it's a lot, to have just all the focus be on every word you say, how you say it, where you are, who you're with. So it was nice to kind of step back a bit
Right.
and remind us that politics are not good when they're based on kind of the celebritization of politicians and elected officials, no matter how great they may be. And instead spend my time supporting communities, really like trying to think about what worked. Why were we able to get homegrown an eviction prevention program that ended up being replicated in 180 cities, part of the Biden Bill of Rights, and cut our evictions in half. Like what was it that made that happen? And so thanks to a fellowship from Open Society Foundations as a democracy fellow, helped work with different communities around the country, put some stuff in writing, got a chance to be with a fantastic cohort of people who are fighting authoritarianism from all these different methods and ways. And now I'm just thrilled to welcome Netroots back to Philadelphia.
And we're here. So did you take this fellowship sort of to say, how can I, it's interesting because you fulfill, not being a mayor, a lot of policies that most mayors would dream to have fulfilled. Not being the mayor, and one would assume that enough people would have seen your success in pushing these policies that were successful and elected you as opposed to someone else. That said, did you pretty much go to this conference to learn that it's not enough to be good at what you did, what you accomplished, but there's also some games that you have to learn to play?
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a profoundly important time in our country and everybody's lives. But I think I am here one, it's great to be here to like listen and learn, but also I think I want to make the case that what I always knew, that politics don't start with politicians, they start with us, that even the best people are hampered from within if communities are not empowered, powerful, funded, and supported to take action and change, that political circumstances inhibit the best people, but communities go beyond what's politically, possible in any given moment and make the case what must be politically necessary. And so to me, as we, look at a time when, I said this in my remarks this morning, but, I want people to know that, what happens in, South Colleton County, I think in South Carolina, Colleton County with the Black residents there shutting down an AI data center matters more than a freaking Senate speech where, you got a senator saying everything that they can't do on this issue. It matters more to have, Larry Krasner be elected as a third term as district attorney than it does to watch, Todd Blanche as Attorney General effectively legislating. It's not even just that it's closer. It's that, how do you stop authoritarianism in DC if we can't stop it at home? And actually the things that stop authoritarianism is not power. Power doesn't power butts up against power, but it's the, I think Zoran said it really well. Zoran Mamdani, Mayor Mamdani, said it really well by dismantling the tools that made authoritarians, that gave authoritarians their power anyway. And that happens at home, it is painful for me to watch as a city of Philadelphia sits on an unimaginable $1 billion surplus. And then 2 weeks ago closed 17 schools and then have a school district announce that they want more than $50 million in budget cuts in a classroom. That's obscene. It's, I talked a little bit about how politicians and elected officials fell apart when a bunch of billionaires demanded to build a Sixer sports arena in the middle of Chinatown. And the people who actually stopped it were ordinary residents and an activated citizenry from all parts of the city, but especially from Black and brown communities that had lost their battles and knew that standing up was like exercising that muscle. Like, we won't accept what's happening to you, to me, to others. Like, this is the thing that we're missing right now. We want a beautiful, like, sparkly, shiny person to go make the world feel better for us. And the reality is that it's our world.
That is what scared them the most about you. And that's why, as you said, how many millions of dollars did they put up against you?
Millions and millions of dollars. Too many millions for us to like be able to count. But
did they spend more on you than you spend on yourself?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, like, the election was about testing boundaries. When I first came in 2015, I was the first person really elected outside of the mainstream Democratic machine, endorsed by a working families party. They had just gotten started.
Right.
Like, this was the first election where they endorsed a candidate, and that candidate won, not on a working families party ticket, but on a Democratic ticket. And then 4 years later, as is what I knew I would always do, I would endorse my colleague Kendra Brooks to be the first Working Families Party candidate. And Netroots Nation was here in 2019. And since 2019, the two Working Families Party ticket have replaced all the Republicans on the at-large seats on city council, right? Larry Krasner's still here. We've got DSA electeds in our state Senate and our state legislature. Chris Rabb is going to Congress, and
wait, is Rabb DSA?
Rabb was endorsed by DSA.
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
I think he's DSA.
Okay.
Could be. And we will have our eye on a certain Senate seat in 2028.
I wonder which Senate seat is that.
Yeah, you don't have to wonder.
Somebody that's quite tall and large.
It's somebody who has left their values behind.
And you would have won if you've left your values behind, young lady. Yeah,
I mean, like I said, I think like what I tried to learn about politics and elections, and I've always felt this, is that, politics or an election is about the right person meeting that moment.
Exactly.
And it's not always because the wrong person got it, or it was that moment, or the right person always gets it. It's not how it works. And sometimes you have to ask those questions, like, what are our boundaries? What is the capacity of what's possible? And can we go back and do it again? And so I think it felt important. It felt like our schools were on the line, and they are. It felt like, a bunch of billionaires thinking that they can run this city was on the line, and it did. And we keep on. But it's not based on an election. It's about helping people exercise that civic muscle of not normalizing, oppression and scarcity and exploitation and all the things that get us desensitized to what then happens to other people in Palestine.
And that is what very few people understand, right? And that's the reason we're in a condition where, because there's so many people, to bluntly say, are willing to sell their souls. Ultimately, they're willing to sell their souls. And you were not willing to do that. And you were not willing to do that.
Yeah. We were there to show that you can make change. You can make change fast. It doesn't have to be, I know everyone thinks about Trump, but we did it here too. We ended evictions. We were the fourth highest evicting city in the nation. We ended evictions in less than 5 years, or we cut them down so far that it was dramatic. We restored back school funding. We gave nurses and counselors clean water. You can do things quickly, and you can't wait, and you have to take your chances. And sometimes you lose, but it is worth it to know where we stand.
Helen, you've always been, and I say this from the depths of my heart, you've always been an inspiration. I mean, from the time that I met you in Phoenix, just watching you in this, I mean, you put progressive into progressive. You really do. And it's not, with you, it's not just words, it is action. And that is what, that can be either, I understand what I'm going to say here. To some extent, it can be depressing. And I mean that in that at the time that you ran, given your record, given not just the activism, but what you wanted to put to the city, corporations versus the people, schools, etc., it's something that would have done the city well. And to think that that message could penetrate, or to think that one could use dollars to erase that message, it's depressing. However, what I got out of our discussion here is that you understand that, and that you said, well, how do you skin a cat in a different manner?
Yeah.
And you went to learn what maybe without affecting your values or impacting your values, what would you try next the next time you
Yeah.
do it?
Exactly. And, you know, like, boo hoo hoo for me, but like it happens in communities every day.
Yes.
And the thing that I want to think about is that that paralysis, that fear, that depression that kind of sinks in, is like the thing that we also need to overcome, because
Yes.
this dismantling of the horrible things that our country that are being done in our nation's name,
Right.
or that communities are doing to one another, you know, is obscene and it's harmful, and we have to be able to rise up stronger. And I always think, like, you know, like when things were at their worst with us in like the schools battles, when they closed like 24 public schools in a single 2-hour meeting without a second thought to what would happen
Right.
to tens of thousands of school children. It was like, you know, yeah, you get down on your knees and you weep and you cry, and then you pick yourself back up and you realize that this place is not, they're not for you.
Right.
So don't derive your power from there,
Right.
but the power that you gain, there's a new strength that they don't understand.
Yes.
And maybe you're not quite ready yet, but like that strength is going to topple everything. We saw it in Minneapolis. We see it in like young people who took on unimaginable consequences to speak out
Yes.
on Palestine. And it's changed opinion. It can change the world. And that's really where power is. So.
Helen Gym,
Yes.
it is my honor again to be with you, sis.
Thank you.
And, you know,
Thank you for allowing us a loving, warm space for different voices to feel embraced and like in community. So, Egberto,
thank
you're
you for being a politics
yeah.
and right.
Hope you enjoyed that. Before I go to the phones, I want to tell you something about Helen. When I met her in Phoenix, I think it was I can't remember what year it was. You know, been to so many knit roots. And the way it works when you have new candidates come in is that they go on stage, and we have this stuff like we call it like the chisels or something like that, and they go out, and there are a few thousand people surrounding them, and sure, maybe a few hundred, because the place wasn't big enough to hold the whole thing, but and everybody's fighting for space, and then you have to shout your message out pretty much. And she was on the group of candidates that were running, I think. That's where I met the native woman in Arizona that was running, etc. And anyway, they had her placed to talk after Nina Turner, former state senator of Ohio and congresswoman. And she said, like, "Oh my God, why do they have me, little Helen Gym coming after Nina Turner. Anybody who knows Nina Turner knows nobody can give a speech like Nina Turner, and she is expressive. And Nina did her thing, and she was lively, and she had the crowd going. And then came Helen Gym, and she's short, so you can barely see her over the crowd. And you had this powerful voice going out there, shooting progressive values out there, and what is going to be done when she gets onto city council. She actually won that election, city council in Philadelphia. And I'm there going through the crowds. I've got to speak to this woman. Who is it that's saying these things? And there was Helen Jim, and we got into a good friendship thereafter, because it was like, wow, this is what activism looks like. This is what going out there and fighting for the people you really want to represent look like. And that's who that woman is. I mean, she is not only a community organizer, but she really knows her stuff. Let's go to Moses, line number 1.
Good morning, buenos dias.
Buenos días, mi amiga, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien, muy bien. ¿Usted?
Muy bien. Talk to me, my sis. Talk to me.
All right. Man, you took all the words out of my mind this morning. It was telepathy. Now, let me say, a house must get dirty. All the trash and everything must be collected in it before it can get a thorough cleaning. This nation is at its dirtiest. The politicians are unabashed thieves. They don't even hide it anymore. They are unabashed dirt mongers. They don't hide it anymore. Now, when you talk about capitalism, what we have right now is a swift descent to implosion of the nation. We already seen it. It's everywhere. It's not a joke anymore. Stores are closing. People are lose their jobs. They have chopped up all the jobs and everything. And the nation is now in its stages of implosion. When the people become impoverished, who purchases the products?
Amen.
Will the AI become the purchaser? Does the AI need 5 pounds of flour to make bread? Does the AI need some furniture? It doesn't. The people do. So when you impoverish the people, what happens?
You
Now,
ultimately sign your demise. You're right, sis. You're so right.
now listen again. Listen again. Now, what is going to happen is, it's always happening like this. The people always find a different way to escape from underneath it. There are new methods. Look, after the Second World War, people found different ways of doing different things, and look what came out of the dirt. New methods came out. The people always find a way to survive and to discard the dirt. That is what's happening today. The nations right now are finding all kinds of ways to gather together so that they don't have to depend upon America.
You're so
And
right.
what comes out of it is beautiful, because once they find a way to discard the dirt, to clean the dirt, and to be able to stand up firmly again, then you will see the healing of the wound. And finally, and you know what's going to happen? And the expansive data centers will be left to those who will pity the poor. They will have to be repurposed for the people to engage in free enterprise, or they'll have to be repurposed to make cheap housing for the people. It is, again, when the house is dirty and all its mess, it's time it will be cleaned and washed out, and the people will re-emerge with new eyes, a new purpose. And
Thank you.
As it is said, and great man will come to his end with all his $1 trillion, and nobody will want it
Thank you,
because
Moses.
we have found a different way to do without him.
Moses, I got another 9-minute video that I got to play, but thank you for those words. You nailed it. You nailed it. You nailed it. Thank you, sis. Let's go to David. David, real quick for me. I got another 9-minute video to play. Come on in, David.
Oh, thanks, Egberto. Oh, I guess your guest already left. I was wondering if she's been working with alternative economies, alternative currencies. You know, obviously, if Trump is going to ruin the U.S. dollar, we're going to have to find a way to, come up with some local dollars, some local type of money, so that we don't have to be trapped in the whirlpool that he's setting for the U.S. dollar.
I think you nailed it. I mean, I don't. Helen hadn't gone there, but I am pretty sure she is there. But thank you for that, David. David, I got a 9-minute video to play, and so I mean, if there's, thank you, my brother. I appreciate your words. Okay. I want to point out something before I jump to Betty. Vegan Cindy said something that is so smart it hurts my tongue what I said. She said, Egberto, suggestion to say there's more than one way to peel an orange versus the violent skin a cat. You're so right. It's going to take me a while to, just like I had to get rid of all my other isms, I am going to have to get rid of that kind of ism as well. Vegan, bear with me and nailed me every time. Oh, look at me. I'm even saying the wrong thing. Nail me every time. Go ahead and correct me every time when I say things like that. Thank you, sis. We are indoctrinated to say these bad phrases. You're right. Let's go to Betty.
More. Hello.
Good morning.
Oh, okay. Let me try to do with the AI. That's what I'm ranting about this morning. AI for companies is like getting a new piece of equipment that does the job of 3, maybe more of the workers. They love it. They want it. Companies won't have to pay Social Security, withholding tax, workman's comp, insurance, and so on and so on. And the workers that kept the company going for years, they're stand up. Not even a thank you, not even a little bit of money so they can find another job. They give the workers the boot, slam the door. Baby, it's cold outside. Love y'all.
Love you, Betty. Jack, as you heard, she always makes it simple. Always makes it simple. Thank you for that, Betty. All right, we have one last video to play. This is the Secretary of State of Connecticut, and she brought something into the ethos that I think we need to heed. Let's go ahead and listen to her, and then we'll take it on the other side. Let me get it there.
Welcome to another edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willies. I'm honored once again at another net route to meet the Secretary of the State of Connecticut, yes, Stephanie Thomas. Let me tell you, first of all, it's a pleasure to speak to you once again. Yeah. I can't tell you guys how impressed I was with this young lady the last time we spoke. And again, I think, are you running for Secretary of the State of
I am. It's a 4-year term, so it is up this year. So I am currently on the ballot in November.
Well, I am absolutely sure with all that you've done, it will be another landslide for your win.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Anyway, so go ahead.
I was going to say, you always have to run scared.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
I think you're right about that. And I think that's what happened to a lot of people. And in fact, in speaking to you yesterday, you actually put a scare into me.
Yes, I did. I didn't mean to, though.
Because, we know how bad things are right now. And you told me don't count your horses. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I run into this all the time. I work with a lot of advocacy groups, but I also travel the state talking to voters all the time. And I think there's this expectation that if people are having hard times or they're angry, they're frustrated, that it translates at the ballot box. But just because people are angry does not mean they will turn out to vote. Do you want me to tell you more?
I want you to keep telling me.
Well, so...
let me tell you why.
Yeah.
Because I think people don't only need to hear that as a talking point.
Yeah.
They need to hear why.
I'll tell you a couple stories. Well, we can think about our own lives, right? Something makes you really mad. One of two things happens typically. You're like, ugh! Like you clench your fists, and like that's the equivalent of people, keyboard warriors, right? They're on social media, they're like striking back, like, no, like they're angry and they're out there. But like doing something on your keyboard isn't necessarily going to the ballot box. Or if you're angry, sometimes it causes you to retract. Like you're like, I'm washing my hands of this. I'm done. I'm never dealing with this again. And these are the same types of emotions I hear when I could be talking to political science majors when it's young people. I could be talking to older people and I say, are you registered to vote? Yes. Do you plan to vote in this year's election? They shrug. And I'm like, why not? And you hear all of these things. They're angry, but they're tired of all of politics, or they're frustrated, but they don't think their one vote makes a difference. And we hear all of these reasons. And interestingly enough, I went to a panel. This is why I love Netroots. There was a panel today, research-based, about a big survey that was done and about people like the disengaged, disaffected group of people, which is quite large. And what they said was, disillusionment isn't disengagement. And what they meant by that was, these people do things. They go to protests. They sign petitions. They talk to friends and families. They follow the news sometimes, but they don't vote. And I have a story about that from Connecticut, one of our towns. When the first No Kings protest happened, people had to sign up through Mobilize. So they ran all of those names through the voter file to see how many of them were who showed up to the protest were voting. Less than 40% were voting, but they still showed up to the protest. So a lot of people don't translate the ballot box as the way to make change. So we who believe in voting and making sure that people follow through on that civic duty have to remember that and make sure we're explaining all the time of why that change has to happen at the ballot box.
It is disappointing that, and that's another dynamic I then don't understand, because somebody who signs up with the blue, to go to a protest or whatever, that means that person is engaged.
Yeah.
And to think that only 40% of them then went to vote, they made the effort to protest, which could actually take more time than voting.
Yes.
That's disheartening.
Before I was elected Secretary of the State, like many people, I thought turnout was greatly impacted, or lack of turnout, by apathy. But since I've been secretary, I realized that's not usually the reason. A lot of people care about their communities, but either they are confused sometimes, like they don't know what's on the ballot, how that translates to the issue they care about most. Like it doesn't feel immediate. Sometimes they're just disillusioned because they had voted in the past but didn't see change happen. So then they're like, why would I do it again? Sometimes they're lacking information about what is this election? When's it happening? What's early voting? What's absentee voting? And there's a myriad of other reasons why people don't show up. But they're not monolithic. So we who care about voter turnout have to meet people where they are in their spaces and try to make them feel part of whatever type of community or action like they're craving, so that they will then translate that same passion that drives them to a protest to the ballot box.
That is why I think you won. Because no, I'm serious. I think you won because you acknowledge human behavior.
Yes.
And not
yes.
only human behavior. So it's not only that you have a cause, it's not only that you know why you want to be Secretary of the State of Connecticut, but it is also that you understand how it works. And I think that is why, again, you're likely to win.
I hope so.
Again, so what would you like to tell the audience, or what should I ask you that I have not asked you?
What I'll tell the audience, I appreciate what you just said. What I try to do is, I wasn't always in politics, right? I got here quite accidentally. So I try to always think about things through the lens of what I would have thought when I was an ordinary person, right? Before I was elected.
Let me interrupt you a second. You said when you were an ordinary person. You are the Secretary of the State, and I watch you around here at Netroots. You behave as an ordinary person with the power that you have.
I have always been exactly the same, and I see no reason to change now because of a title, right? But that's very foundational to how I do the job. I try to remember, like, people just like me is who I'm talking about and who I'm trying to reach. So what I would tell everyone out there is that elected people need to hear from you. If you, like, something resonates, like, oh, I don't bother to vote and this is why, like, tell your elected person so they can try to change the system or come up with programs or tools or resources that you would find helpful. I think what we've lost is this two-way communication. I have to learn from the people, and the people can learn some things from government, but we need both sides always working on it.
You are always impressive. Stephanie Thomas.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Of the State of Connecticut.
Yes.
Thank you so kindly.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
All right, Jack, did my speech over that squelch work at all?
No.
It didn't.
No,
Wow.
No, I came on the air and prepared the people for your silence.
Okay, well, actually, I tried to talk over that to see if that actually worked. Well, I mean, that squelch is masterful the way they have it set up. Wow, that is amazing. Anyway, folks, we are at 52. We timed it just right that we can possibly finish the last subject, which says a warning from the UK for centrist US Democrats who refuse to fight for the working class. When Labour won, they were supposed to be an alternative to right-wing crazy, but now are losing the whole country to their own MAGA because a real alternative takes work. The consensus is that this year for the Democrats, they have the political winds at their back, even with gerrymandering and the voter suppression and every Republicans have thrown at the wall. Smart money says Democrats take the House and maybe the Senate, and anything that limits the power of this president is good. I'll grant all of it. Net positive. But what happens after a good cycle or two if the winners don't understand what they won? If they don't see the pain that powered their victories? We don't have to guess because it's already happened in Britain. A year and a half ago, Labour won in a landslide. Imagine our centrist Democrats, the Newsoms and the Buttigieg and the wing sweeping into power with the biggest majority in a generation. The Tories were finished. The same way a lot of folks think Republicans are about to be finished. But Labour walked in and decided the mission was better management. But the adults in the room, trimming spending, talk tough on border. The ship was fine, just needed a steady hand. Now look at them. Reform is Nigel Farage's party, which is their MAGA more or less. Reform is leading the polls and Labor's distant second. Their MAGA has led just about every poll since late last year. Keir Starmer, the head of Labour, is one of the least popular leaders in the Western world. A year and a half ago, centrists won everything. Now they're watching the British version of Trumpism walk toward the power. And it's not only in there, it's in Peru, it's in other places. When progressives take power, you have to take power. When progressives win, you have to give them what the people say they want. The Americans have already said what they wanted. They want progressive values. Don't mention the word progressive. Give them the values. The values. They want health care. They want child care. They want family leave. They want those things. Don't give them reasons why you can't do it because the corporatocracy that is now paying the centrists say that you can't. Go out there and do it. Mandani fixed over 100,000 potholes as soon as he got into office. Mandani got childcare for over 100,000 New Yorkers as soon as he got there. He executed. That is what progressives, real progressives, do. You want to see action. You want to hold on to power. You elect progressives who are going to give you progressive values and not a whole bunch of moderates that says, well, we can't do this because. The billionaires are billionaires not because of MAGA. The billionaires are billionaires because of centrists and neoliberals who have failed you. Jack.
Well, I believe this next cycle we need to vote with the progressives and everyone else, every other Democrat. We hold their feet to the fire, and if they don't perform, we vote them out and get a new progressive in there to do the work.
Just what we're going to do to the senator in Pennsylvania. We are at 56, near the end of the program. Folks, I want to tell you how thankful I am to have you here listening. Wasn't able to call all of you out this time around because, again, we had a lot to talk about. But anyhow, thank you for being here. The rest of the program can be found at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. You can email me directly, kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Repeating that, kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Love you all, absolutely all of you. My name is Egberto. Willies, this is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out.
Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing